right, guys. I'm not going live. All right, guys. 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 So first, before we get into the harder stuff, we need to look at your basic fractions. So what's 2/7 plus 3/7? 5/7. So notice when you're adding those, you added the top and you kept the bottom the same. Right? We need to keep this in our minds. So number 2, 11/15 minus 1/15. 11 minus 1 is 10. It's 10/15, and then you would simplify that. That's 2/3. Now, I need to make sure we're pointing out something here, because this is going to show up again with the algebraic ones. When you subtracted, did you simplify first? No. You subtracted them, got your answer, and then you simplified. I need you to keep that in the back of your mind, okay, as we're going through this. All right, what about number 3? 3/4 plus 5/14. I know where she's going with this. But looking at that, the way it sits, is it okay? No, because I need common denominators when you're adding. So I don't know about you guys, and if you can think back to when you were doing actually fractions by hand, but I always like write mine right below there, just so I can kind of keep things lined up with what I'm doing. What do 4 and 14 both go into? 28. So I need to be able to turn both of them into a 28. That way they're the same and I can actually add them together. Right? So what did you multiply 4 by to make it 28? By 7. So that means I have to multiply the top by 7. So 3 times 7 is 21. What do you multiply 14 to get 28? So I multiply the top by 2. That's 10. And now I have 21 28ths plus 10 28ths is 31 28ths. And then that won't simplify. Don't change it to a mixed number. It's fine just the way it sits. All right, so again, I need you to kind of be thinking of all the basics here as we transfer into the harder ones. Yeah, you can see where it gets hard because we're going to have things where they're not the same. So you're going to have to be able to multiply them by something. But a lot of times I'm multiplying them by like an x plus 2 or an x squared minus 5 or something. Right, but if we can go back to the basics and kind of think through the basics of it, I need you to have that before we move into all the abstract stuff. Okay? Yeah. No. No. Nope. No state test in this class. Well, it's especially a really, really good thing because you would fail it. I taught this in Algebra 1 in Finley. It was Chapter 10, Algebra 1. Because you guys have never learned it. Talk to your homeschool. Talk to your homeschool. Factoring. We spent a month on factoring. That's Algebra 1. Right? But guys, I know that you didn't learn it, so that's why we're learning it now. Okay? I mean, have we done Algebra 2 stuff? We have. We have. It's been kind of intermixed with Algebra 1 stuff. But if you took an Algebra 2 air test, you would not pass it. But if you need to retake an air test because you didn't score enough points, retake your Algebra 1. Look how much more Algebra 1 you know. Yeah. If you would retake it now, you'd probably do a lot better. All right, number 4, 7 over 4x plus 3 over 4x. It'd be 10 over 4x. Is that good, or can I simplify? It's okay if there's a variable. There's no plus or minuses holding it as a group. Good. So that would be 5 over 2x. What would your restrictions? What would your restrictions be? 0. Yeah, we're still going to do restrictions. So 2x over x plus 6 minus 5 over x plus 6. Yeah, they're not like terms. I can't really do much with them. So it'd be 2x minus 5 over x plus 6. Good. Restrictions, x cannot equal negative 6. Any of that factor or simplify at all? No. That's held with subtraction. That's held with plus. Those are groups. You either take the whole group or you factor it. You can't piece that out. All right, so this is some of the real basics, okay? If it already has a common denominator, go ahead and put them together, see what you can do. It is on there, but homework is not printed on your homework. Okay. But no, I do put it on here because we need to reference it because this gets a little ugly sometimes. This is on your purple sheet. It's the same thing that's your purple sheet, but I just want to kind of go through step by step what our process is here. So we'd have to find common denominators, which is the hardest part for probably most kids to get their head around. And we'll kind of talk through that as we get to it. But first thing you're going to do is step 1 is factor denominators. Because again, we have to focus on getting common denominators on things. If you're factoring everything in the problem, you're going to have issues. Okay? Factor denominators. This section is so important that you read your purple sheet in order. Okay, then you will figure out what your LCD should be, least common denominator. That's where most students struggle, is right there. Then, just like we did with the basics, with the 4 and the 14, you have to multiply the top and bottom by whatever that was missing to make it that. Like what did you multiply 4 by to make it 28? You multiplied by 7, so you multiplied it by 7 on the top, right? Same idea here, whatever it's missing. I just called it your missing pieces because they're usually groups, usually chunks that you're missing. Okay, once you get a common denominator, you can then add your numerators. Now notice I do have the word add here. I do that on purpose, okay? I don't want you to have any subtraction problems. Same way we didn't have any division, we switched them to multiply. We're gonna do the same thing here. Because what happens if you have a subtraction sign in front of like 2x plus 4? What's gonna happen to that subtraction? It's gonna change everything. So what we're gonna do, there's gonna be a subtraction sign. We're going to actually distribute that negative. So it's going to be minus 2x minus 4. But in between your fractions is now a plus sign. We'll have changed it. Because if we change our signs early in the problem, as we work through it, it's a lot easier. You don't lose signs. And we'll talk about that as we go through it. Then we'll talk about your restrictions once you put them together. Then we'll actually try to factor our numerators. So you have factoring here, and you have factoring there. You factor twice. But up here, I'm only doing denominators. Down here, I'm only doing numerators. And then I'll cancel anything I can. What I find from students all the time is you go through all the work to get common denominators. You have all this stuff going in your problem, and then you cancel everything out and take it right back to the beginning and call it done. No, why did you just multiply everything just to cancel it all out and take you back to the beginning? Okay, you don't cancel until the very last step. Okay, and just to make sure we're clear. When do we cancel? Very last step. Very last step. Okay, and again, I have it right here just so we can kind of keep referencing it because this is a little trickier, okay? All right, so number 6. Notice right away we do not have common denominators, so I can't just go right ahead and put them together. Cool? It is. I had screen captured it from something and like made it bigger, and I didn't actually type that in there. Yeah, and it's a little bit blurry. So it's not because of your concussion. It's okay. All right, so let's go through step by step. Step 1 says factor my denominators. So can I factor 9x squared? No. Here? What do I do? Take out a 3x. So that would leave us with x plus 1. Good. I'm going to go ahead and cross this off because I factored it. I don't want to have to get confused by having it there. All right, so that was step 1. I factored my denominators. Didn't even look at the numerator. Don't care. I was only looking at the bottoms. Step 2 is my LCD. Now here's what I'm going to recommend to you guys. Set this up before we do anything else. I'm setting up my blank fractions at the bottom here. Okay? Now I need a common denominator. Let's look at the plain old numbers out front first. So I have a 9 and a 3. Both of those can go into 9. So that means both fractions will need a 9. One of them has an x squared, one of them has an x. I need an x squared in both of them. when I'm making common denominators, can I ever make the number smaller? No, I'm always making them bigger, right? So you have to be at least what it is or bigger. You cannot make them smaller. All right, so I have this one covered, right? I got every piece from here. I have a 9, I have an x squared. 3 can go into 9. X, I can make that an x squared. I need this group. I need an x plus 1. So my common denominator is going to be a 9x squared and an x plus 1. You need to what I kind of almost do is I kind of go through piece by piece of all my denominators, and I make sure I can either turn it into that or at least just have that piece down there. Every piece needs to be accounted for. Okay? So that was me finding my LCD, and again, we'll get practice on that. I know that gets a little tricky. Step 3 is to multiply each fraction by the missing pieces to obtain the common denominator. So what do you need to multiply this one by to get here? What's it missing? It's missing the x plus 1. So that means I need to multiply, just like we did with a 4, turning it into a 28, I multiplied it by 7. So then I had to multiply the top by 7. It's that same idea right here. So what is 7 times x plus 1? 7x plus 7. I'd have to distribute this. So it's 7x plus 7. Okay, so I look at this one. What do I have to multiply to get it to be this? 3x, good, right? 3 times 3 would give me 9. X times x would make me x squared. So I have to multiply this one by 3x. What's x times 3x? 3x squared. It already had the x plus 1, so it wasn't missing. Yeah, it was already there. Try. Yeah, don't factor. What Trey's trying to do there, he's like, he sees that I can factor out a 7 from this. But that's right where I came from. Okay? And the reason factoring, again, we will factor eventually, but not till down here. Because the whole reason I did this, let's keep in mind our goal of this, is to actually put these fractions together. So our next step is to add our numerators. What happens when I'm adding fractions? What do I do with my denominators? I leave it. So my next step is to have a beautiful common denominator, 9x squared x plus 1. And let's actually take the tops and put them together. If you would have factored the numerator before putting them together, you can't put them together. Because then you don't have any like terms to try to put together. Good. So 3x squared plus 7x plus 7. There are no like terms, but I'll at least rewrite it in standard form down here. So that was step 4, adding my numerators. Step 5, my restrictions. 0 and negative 1. Step 6, factor the numerator. Does that factor? Normally we would try to see if we could factor this. So it'd be like, all right, can I do this? They'd both be plus. We're not solving. We're just trying to simplify. Sorry, thank you. So that'd be 1 and 3, so 3x and x. Options for C, 1 and 7. If I put the 7 here, I end up with a 21. If I put the 7 here, we have 7 and 3. It's not going to make a 7. This doesn't factor. So nothing factors. So then can I cancel anything? Remember, this is a group. No, I can't do anything else. So I'd be done. The hardest parts of this, students a lot of times will struggle with that LCD. And then, there's factoring, and it looks like it should factor. It's a trinomial, it's an x squared. I should be able to factor, but it actually doesn't factor. So if I was doing solving, then yes, Cole, then I would have to look at doing quadratic formula. But I'm not solving. When we get into solving, our first step is to get rid of the fractions. So our fractions would be gone. And we'll get into that next week. It's not terrible. If you can figure out the LCDs in this section, because you still need to use that in solving, then you'd be all right with solving. All right, so here we go, number 7. Step 1, let's factor our denominators. So does x minus 1 factor? No, but that is a group. I want to keep in mind, I remember in my mind that's a group. I can't piece that out. All right, can this one factor? Yes. Good. X minus 1, x minus 2. All right, go ahead and set up then your fractions so that we can try to find common denominators. Same way I did that with plain old numbers. With the 4 and the 14, I went ahead and set up my blank ones to kind of fill them in. So step 2 is that LCD. So every part, every piece of my denominators. So do I need this? Yep, I need an x minus 1, so that's accounted for. Is this already accounted for? Yep. And I need one of those. So my common denominator would be x minus 1 and x minus 2. Yes. All right, but you guys see how I kind of just did every part, every piece, right? I went through, I need this, I need one of these, I need this. Yes, but sometimes even that one with the most pieces, sometimes it's still missing something. Like if this had been like an x minus 3, it still would have needed that too. Every part, every piece needs to be accounted for in my denominator. Oh yeah, every piece needs to be accounted for. Everyone. All right, so step 3, multiply by their missing pieces. What is this denominator missing? It's missing the x minus 2. Yes, so I need to actually multiply. That would give me x squared minus 2x. Yes. This one wasn't missing anything. So I don't need to multiply the top by anything. It would still stay 2x minus 1. So now we have common denominators. So now we can actually put stuff together. That's why step 4 is to add my numerators. What happens to my denominator? Stays the same. It's going to stay x minus 1, x minus 2. And let's actually put it together on top. We're going to have, yeah, so what happens here? Those canceled, but I have a minus 1. Okay, hold on, one step at a time here. So that was just adding my numerators together. Step 5, restrictions. Good. X cannot equal 1 or 2, coming from the bottoms here. Step 6, can you factor that numerator? Mm-hmm. That's a difference of squares, right? So x plus 1, x minus 1. And then does anything cancel? The x minus 1s cancel. So my final answer, good, x plus 1 over x minus 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have a line that says restrictions, x cannot equal, and you fill it in. Yeah, because it's a big old mess. That way it's easier for me to grade it. How are we feeling? Bless you. How are we feeling so far? Bless you. You think this is easier? That's funny. It's way more stuff. Okay, let's try another one. How important is it, though, to read your purple sheet? Very. If you do things out of order, you're going to have big time problems. So number 1, factor denominators. X squared minus 4 factor? Yep. X plus 2, x minus 2. And x plus 2 is just x plus 2. Take a minute, write down, nobody say any word. What do you think the common denominator is? Nope, just what do you think it is? I want to make sure we're starting to get the hang of how to find that. All right. Anybody want to venture a guess? Good. The rest of your classmates rose their hands. I appreciate that from the rest of you. It snowed on the whole way here. Yeah, but that's not really. Yeah, that's. All right, making sure that we're cool with this, guys. I went through every part and piece, my denominators. I need an x plus 2. I need an x minus 2. I need an x plus 2. I already wrote that down. So I got everything accounted for. Okay? So step 3, multiply by whatever it's missing. What is this one missing? Nothing, so it's going to stay in x. Good. Good. Which, yeah, it's just going to be x minus 2. Distributing a 1 doesn't change anything. Is x or 1x the same thing? Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's implied. All right, so step 4, add my numerators. What happens to my denominator? Stays the same. So it's going to be x plus 2x minus 2. We actually put the tops together. What do we get? Good. 2x minus 2, right? X plus x is 2x. We have the minus 2. So that was step 4. Step 5 is my restrictions. X cannot equal plus or minus 2. And I don't know if you guys heard Justin ask me, on your test next week over all this, I'll have a blank on each problem that says restrictions, like, and you fill it in, like write them down. That way you don't forget and I can find where you wrote them. It's next Friday. We're only doing 3 sections. We did multiplying, dividing, and simplifying is 1 section. Adding, subtracting is the 2nd section, and solving is the 3rd section. Yeah, we're only doing 3 sections of chapter 8. Yeah. We haven't looked at any subtraction problems yet. Same idea. You just have one more little thing you need to do. It's not bad. It's really not bad. We're flipping something. Yeah. All right, guys. Step 6, factor the numerator. Does that factor? Yeah? They got a 2 out of this. Yep, so 2 and then x minus 1. Hold on. All we've done so far is factor the numerator. It's not jump yet. Anything cancel? No. So really it's just, I'm going to rewrite it just because I had scribbles in there. So 2 times x minus 1 all over x plus 2, x minus 2. That's what's the worst, though, and you go through all that trouble and you factor it and nothing cancels. The next one's still an addition problem? Okay. All right, guys, let's go ahead and go through this problem. You're either done or you need a little help. That's okay. That's where we're trying to see where we're at. Step 1, factor your denominators. Does the first one factor? X minus 1? No, but that is a group. Let's not forget that's a group. Here, this one, take out an x, so you're left with x minus 1. All right, so step 2, your LCD. So we'll set this up. Hold on, I got to figure out what it is first. I'm not at the missing. I'm at actually finding it. So I need an x minus 1. I need an x. I need an x minus 1. I already have it. I already wrote that down. So I need x and x minus 1. The only time you would need to have like x minus 1 squared, like I would need to actually write down 2 of them, is if one of my fractions had 2 of them. If it was x squared minus 1, then it would be. Oh, you thought that was the difference of squares? That would give you x squared minus 1. All right. So the missing parts, that's step 3. What is this one missing? It was missing the x. So you'd have to multiply this top by x. X squared plus x. This one is missing nothing. So minus 2. All right. Step 4, adding my numerators. What happens to the denominator? Stays the same. So on the top, good. No like terms, but it all just kind of comes together. Step 5, restrictions. X cannot be 1 and 0. Yeah, 0 here and then the 1. Step 6, factor the numerator. That factors. Good. And step 7 is cancel. This one's. So we have x plus 2 over x. Yeah? They're just take time, step by step. And if you do your steps out of order, you're going to have trouble.
I don't see how you said these are harder.
Hey, I'm glad that you don't think so. Okay, so number 10, notice now we have a subtraction problem, right? And I've told you, though, I want to make sure we're always adding. I want an addition sign between every fraction every time. So what happens to a subtraction in front of all of this stuff? You'd have to distribute that, right? I want you to do that right away. I want you to change your subtraction sign to a plus. We read from left to right, so it's only affecting what is to the right of it. Do not go the top and the bottom. Okay? Don't touch the bottoms. Only the top. So that would change this to a plus, and that will change that to a plus. And now it is just like our last problem. That's it. Okay? Well, it's kind of like going from multiplication to division, right? Like one little switch and we were back to what we already did. No, the steps are not any different. Yeah. All right, so step 1, let's factor our denominators. Okay, so the first one, good, take out a 2. So x minus, hey Cole, what's 2 divided by 2? 1. Okay, good. Just making sure. All right, on the next one, you can factor this one. What are your signs? Good, 3 and 1. You don't like the factoring? I'm sorry. So that was all just step 1. We factored my denominators. Step 2, let's find the LCD. So let's set up our blank fractions. And let's see if we can fill in what that LCD should be. Every part, every piece, just kind of go through writing stuff down. So I need a 2. I need an x minus 1. I need an x minus 3. An x minus 1. I already have it. I already wrote it down. So this is my LCD. I need a 2, an x minus 1, and an x minus 3.
So they're both missing something here.
Good. They're both missing stuff. Yep. But do you guys see how I just kind of went through my LCDs and just every piece, I just kind of pulled it down so I had it all accounted for. All right, so step 3, let's actually multiply by what it's missing. What is this one missing? X minus 3. So we're going to have to multiply this by x minus 3. How do you multiply that? Thank you. You had to be the one to say it, didn't you? All right, so let's go ahead and multiply this through. So x times x. X times negative 3. 2 times x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. All right, I could clean it up here, but I'm going to be lazy and wait, and I'm just going to go ahead to the next part. What is this one missing? Just the 2. So this needs to be multiplied by 2. Good. 4x plus 2. We just distribute this throughout. So that was step 3. We multiplied by what it was missing. Well, it's kind of the same idea. So add numerators. What happens to the denominator? Stays the same. Kind of, yeah. Good. So we have an x squared. Oh. No, he's fine. Because negative 3x plus 2x is negative 1x plus 4x is 3x. He was right.
Geez, y'all trying to get me down.
And negative 6 plus 2 is minus 4. So we went ahead and added our numerators. Restrictions. X cannot equal 1 and 3. Step 6. Can you factor that numerator? Uh-huh. We're going to have x plus 4, x minus 1. And then does anything cancel? the top. It's already factored. I factored it from the get-go. So x plus 4 over 2 and x minus 3. I'm cool with that. Try 11 by yourself. All right, guys, let's go ahead and go through this. See how we did. So first thing, there was a minus sign, so you switch that to a plus, and then you change the signs where? To the right, only at the top. Don't ever touch that denominator, okay? Don't touch the signs in there. All right, so step 1, let's factor our denominators. So x plus 2, x plus 2. Looks like you guys were pretty good there. X plus 2, x minus 2. All right, so find your LCD. So going through, good. I need 2 x plus 2's because this one has 2. Remember, we can't make them smaller. So I have to have both of those. You guys cool if I write x plus 2 squared? And this one, I already have that accounted for, but I also need the x minus 2. Okay, so I need 2 x plus 2's and an x minus 2. All right, so that being said, what is step 3? What is this one missing to make it here? It's missing the x minus 2. So on the top, I have to multiply, distribute all of that out. So we're going to end up with x squared minus 2x plus x minus 2. This one is missing another x plus 2. Good. Negative 6x minus 12. All right, so that was step 3. I multiply by what was missing. Step 4, let's add our numerators. What happens to the denominator? Stays the same. Hold on. So I have x squared. Negative 2x plus x is negative 1x minus 6x gives me negative 7x. Negative 2 minus 12 is negative 14. You said negative x squared. You said negative x squared. So step 5, my restrictions. My restrictions, x cannot equal, good, plus or minus 2. Factor your numerator? It doesn't factor. Anything cancel then? No, because this is a group. I can't do anything with it. So I'm done.
I always forget the restrictions. It does not obey my number.
If you read your purple sheets, would you like me to take the purple sheet away?